to you guys to use. Now I know we had a show of hands here yesterday for everyone that's carried out the EV training, but it was pretty good. There's more people.
Can we get a show of hands of how many technicians are 5 years and less in the industry? Good number. Good. How about 10 years or less? And then over 10? So, me personally, I think we're in the golden age of PDR. I think there's so much information out there now that older technicians that have been around have not had. Between podcasts and videos. YouTube wasn't around when we were younger.
Back in the old days.
Like we're really old. But, yeah, I think the younger generation up here, the guys that are 5 years and less or 10 years and less, you have this opportunity of knowledge that is at your fingertips. Not just with training and advancing your training skills, but also with the tools that are out there. I think, Kevin and I, Kevin brought the IMI EV certification to the US, and he saw a great need for it, and that motivated him to make it work. It's all started. I don't know if you covered this yesterday, but
yeah, we went over it briefly yesterday. I mean, a bit of history of how, for those who didn't hear. Myself and one of my colleagues was working on the back end of the Tesla, staring at two whacking great big orange cables, and I knew that orange cables meant danger, but we thought, be okay, as most people probably have done. I went and got my voltmeter. I measured the voltage of those cables and it was deemed to be 0. So we went ahead and we repaired. I then went home and had a very restless night thinking, oh my God, what happened if... my mind works in overtime, I'm very analytical, and I want to know everything I can possibly know about something. So I went off and I did 4 different certifications with different governing bodies that all turned out to be underwritten by the IMI. And then I did one with Bosch, again, underwritten by the IMI. But the one thing I found lacking along that was us. Nothing actually pinpointed to what we do. We're the ones with the big crazy rods, sharp, heavy, jamming down the side of rear quarters, up in headlinings and stuff. We don't know what's at the other end of that tool. We don't know what we're about to lever off. Vince actually did, many of you seen it, a video just the other day on a Kia Optima.
Sonata.
It's Kia Sonata.
Yeah.
Right. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I had a Kia Sonata come in, and one of the things now that I do whenever a car comes in, a hybrid or an electric vehicle always has identifying marks. We know that there's a Toyota Highlander and there's a hybrid Highlander. They look exactly the same. Same with the Sonata. It was exactly the same as a gas-fed one. So I look for the badges immediately. And I have a procedure of what I do when cars come in. I walk around with the customer. I look for those identifying marks immediately. And then I write up the customer in the app that we use, and then check them in. And at that point, the dent was on the left front fender of the Sonata. And I saw the charging port right there, this big gas port looking charging port. And immediately it's like, well, where's the wires going here behind that fender? So once I had the car brought into the shop, I pulled out my flashlight and I opened up the hood and I looked directly right down through the headlight and I saw the big orange cables, exactly where I was going to push for the next 2 hours. So I had to power down the vehicle. And I thought that was a good learning experience to, if you follow us on Facebook, I posted that video on there because you would never think on a regular gas engine that those cables would be there. And it's the point that, if we leverage off of one of those wires and we start running, abrasion on it, we have the risk of the arc blast happening, or just electrocution, which would lead to death. So these are real things that we're coming across on a daily basis, and some of us don't even know that. Are we going to power down vehicles for every car that we work on auditing and things like that? No, we're not. Are we going to do it if we're in the fenders and quarter panels? Absolutely, every single time, because it puts us at risk. If we're working on a hood of a car and there's a three-phase electric cables right below us, we have to protect ourselves from that. It's very simple to be putting down, tools on an engine compartment, on a mat, things like that. But if they slip, they could actually sever those wires, and you're going to die, is what it comes down to. Yeah.
A case in point there, what Vince just said about putting in procedures. Now, obviously a lot of you guys are Hale guys. Some of you may have people working for you. You may go and work for people. Educate yourselves into this. Run your shop properly. Give someone that comes in, a documented process to say, look, if an EV vehicle comes into your shop, this is how it's handled. You don't just go off and do it on your own free will. This is what I expect of you. I would like you to bring the car to me, notify us, we'll put it into a segregated area, and the authorised technician will go and power that vehicle down. That way, if anyone decides to ignore those rules, and something does happen, they get burned, or hopefully they don't die, but you can go back through your files and say, well, hang on a minute, I had this procedure here, the procedure was ignored, I put everything in place that I could possibly do. What else can I be accountable for? Every single thing I could have done, I've done. They chose to ignore that, so it just sort of brings that liability off of you. And that's a part of this education. There's a lot of things out there now. I mean, the procedure we have when we come into a shop, part of the IMI PDR certification we do, is to make sure that we check on a door ding. How many of us have had a customer say, since you've repaired my door ding, this doesn't work, that's fallen off, this is rolling. Yeah. I had one customer, it was a very old car, I went along, I was very young in my PDR career, and I put the window down, I fixed this dent, I'm thinking, this car just doesn't warrant the amount of money they're spending on to get this little thing repaired. And then I went to put the window back up, guess what, window didn't work. Oh, it was working before you did, before you did your dent. So I've come from a mechanical background, I pulled the door card off, I looked in there and the window motor was C-solid, rusted up, but it's my fault. No matter how much questioning I did to the customer, it was working before you did your job. So have that procedure in place to make sure everything is checked, to make sure the door's open from inside and outside, make sure the window goes up and down. If there's a scratch on the door, take a photo of it. It's quite easy to do this, and this is all part of this continued education we're trying to get across. Anyone on there for procedures?
No, that's exactly what I do. Like I said, I check in the car, I walk across the car. Because sometimes, there's additional damage that you could upsell to the customer, or there's damage that they're not aware of, and that you don't want to get blamed for when it comes down to it.
So let's move on to advances in both vehicles and tooling. We need to be educated in both of these. We've sat here for the last 2 days with people saying about how ADAS is changing what we do. It's scary, and I don't think anyone has a definitive answer as to how we're going to deal with these cars. At the moment, we just need to follow the manufacturer statements, the position statements. That's key. Position statements are key. We run a thing called Thatcham Methods. Thatcham is the industry body in the UK for crash testing. So they're the ones that give us what we call an NCAP star rating. If the vehicle was deemed to be 5-star rated in a head-on collision, it's Thatcham that are behind that. So they release all our position statements. And everything that comes in, when we get the position statements for how and when we power the vehicle down. We were removing a hood off of a Prius, and I downloaded the Thatcham Methods, and the first thing it said, power the vehicle down. I was thinking, well, why? Why do I need to power the vehicle down? I'm doing 4 bolts, and then lifting the thing off. And then you go in, what happens if you drop that hood? his slips, right on top of the engine compartment is our inverter, all our three-phase cables going into it, and our DC input coming in as well. So it kind of gets you thinking. If you're, we spoke yesterday. There's a couple of people here that have done, we spoke to that had used the EV training within their day-to-day lives. How many times did they use it? Dave Slott was one of them. And he said, I've had to make educated decisions as to whether or not I need to power this vehicle down. But he now has that knowledge to be able to decide whether or not what he's about to do is going to put him or anyone else in danger. That's a real key point. Advances in tooling as well. Tooling is just going crazy at the moment. We heard from Chris at Kiko. We look at some of these contraptions and you think, it's never going to work. How can that do that? And then you actually go and have a go and you get taught about them. You get to know about the glue temperatures, what humidity and everything. There's so much information out there for us now. Power PDR box, joining yesterday. Actually knowing how this thing works enables us to understand how we're going to use it. Stand liner tools. We've all sat there and ogled they're beautiful tools. Who knows how to use them? There's a few people in here that would, and everyone's got their own different way. But by going to seminars, by going to tech meetings, doing things like this, MTE, PDR tool times, all the podcasts and all the other bits and pieces, there is so much information and education out there for us. We've just got to be involved with it. And I believe that everyone in here, is taking things seriously, and that's brilliant. And anything we can do, when I brought the EV certification across the United States, it was never my goal. Absolutely not. For a small company in Peterborough that most people have known us for a tool car, and next minute we're over here educating guys on how to work safely around electric vehicles, how to do it just doesn't compute in my head. But people were asking, so I'm like, okay, well let's do it. And I was on and off planes for about 3 months last year, delivering the certifications, and then we knew the bits. We was very interested and capable, so we came on board, and now Vince is sort of taking over the certification side in the UK. Sorry, the US.
North America. I'd like to say North America because I'm going to Canada twice next month, or April and May. North America.
North America. There we go.
But I wanted to elaborate a little bit more on the tools because I love tools. Some of you guys know I have a podcast with a few other gentlemen, and I was stuck in my ways. I've been doing PDR. I'm just starting my 25th year, and I was 20 years old at the time. So I've been doing PDR for more than half my life. And I was an old NetWizard tech, and I held on to those NetWizard tools like they were the best tools ever, and that went on for 15 years of my career. And I went out and I bought a few tools that resembled NetWizard tools because I thought those were the best. And the advancements just in the last 5 to 8 years with tools, not just the Power PDR box and the hot boxes, but even our rods. Kevin mentioned the STANDLiner tools. Besides STANDLiner, all the tool manufacturers are coming up with excellent tools that are more ergonomically correct, so we're not damaging our bodies. You guys that have been doing PDR for 5 years or less, you guys are far more ahead than I was at 5 years. You guys, the guys right out of the box are fixing door dings really quick, where that wasn't the case, 20 years ago. And I consider myself a good tech coming out of school, and you guys, the new guys that I see, they're killing it. They're doing a great job fast. So I want to commend you guys for that. I think all of you guys here, and ladies, sorry, you're taking that step, and you're showing pride in your career by being at these shows. This one is a little bit more serious than, we go to MTE, and a lot of us, we go there to have a good time, and we need to blow off that steam. And we do network, and we find tools and things like that. But this one, this is the first time I've come to this. I wasn't here last year, and I'm really impressed with the amount of networking and serious approach that you gentlemen and ladies have to this. I think it's really important, and it shows, I'm going to get over teary now. No, it shows pride in this industry. It's an industry that I love. I wouldn't be in any other industry. You know, this is what I do, and it's great to see everyone here. And with those tools and everything else, the new tools, it's just going to make us quicker, better, cleaner repairs, and don't turn a blind eye to it. Keep an open mind about it, because I did it for a long time, and I probably paid the price with my back and my wrists and my neck and things like that. The ergonomically correct tools now, or ergonomically better tools now, are going to save your career or prolong your career a little bit longer.
Not only that as well, we were talking yesterday about bending holes. Mick Cross was mentioning. It's a big thing in Australia, where vehicles are inspected to make sure that there's no damage to the eco, there's no bending of any holes, everything needs to be straightened up. There's tools out there that are going to help us with that. For one, for example, the tequila line, the 730 seconds.
Yeah,
we would call it 5 mil.
The hand tools,
5 But yeah, these things are bent, and they're designed to go through a hole and not disturb that hole. It gives you 1/16 of an inch. Would that be right? Yeah, so a 1/16 of an inch gap. A little bit of leeway in there, so you're not going to be rubbing the paint off. You're not going to be distorting that hole. We've all done it. I've taped up holes, beyond belief, thinking, yeah, I've done everything possible. Gone in there with my standard tools, start working away, pull it out, and there is this big gouge. I've gone straight through everything I put there, and I've got this nice shiny gouge in the paintwork. We straighten the hole, we address it, eco-tip, touch it up, whatever it needs to be done. But again, the education is there. The videos are there. People showing us how to use these tools and where they can be used and how good they are. Now, okay, we might look at it and go, well, it's pretty much identical to what I've got, except for this little kick. But if it's going to save you having to straighten, spend another 10 minutes at the end of your job straightening all these holes that you've damaged, in my book, that's worthwhile.
Yeah, and especially with glue too. Years ago, 10 years ago, was it probably a little bit over 10 years that we've had glue?
10 years?
Has it been?
2001.
We had glue in
2001.
Huh?
We had it in 99.
2000. Oh, it changed. Okay, it is 2019. Okay, so 20 years now. Wow.
20 years.
No
one knew how to use it though.
one knew how to use that.
It was one of those things, it was that, wasn't it? It was the old Worth kit, and you can go into pretty much every body shop anywhere in the world, and there it will be sat on the shelf covered in dust. Yeah, so horrible things.
All these younger generation technicians that are out there, you've only known glue, and glue, obviously it saved us a lot of time and effort. Even with Kiko and with their mini lifters and their bars and stuff like that, just doing big smashes. I know the majority of you guys are hail technicians, but take a little bit of ownership with some of these tools out there and try them out, because it will definitely prolong your career.
So moving on, certifications. We went through that for many different guises yesterday, and I don't want to keep going over and over the same thing. There are many different bodies out there. There's loads of information. It's freedom of choice. There is no competition. It's not, okay, I'm up here pitching the IMI. The IMI is something I back because it works for me and for what I'm doing. But there's many other forms. I mean, ICAR keeps coming up. Do an ICAR. I've done my ICAR test. I've gone through my EV1 and I've pitched it against the IMI1. There's a lot of good information in there. There's a few things it falls short on, but it's still good, relevant information. For service advisors, for people writing up estimates and stuff. For the $100, whatever it is, it's absolutely worthwhile doing it. The more knowledge we can furnish ourselves with, the better technicians we're going to be. So it's not a case of up here banging the drum and saying you've got to do this, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. Just get educated. Go to a professional body, someone that's going to stand up. I mean, I've had it said to me a few times now, you know, who is the IMI? Who are they? You know, why? I've spoke to loads of people over here and no one's ever heard of it. It's like everything, you know, if I went, I'm a member of NAPDAR, I'm a member of PDR Nation. Speak to anyone in the UK about NAPDAR, PDR Nation, who? But if you do your relevant, you know, your digging, there it is. You go onto the website, boom, there it is. There's a position statement. There's what the goals are of these bodies, and it gives us that little extra leverage into the industry. You know, we spoke yesterday about supply of new technicians. You know, I would much rather see someone that's eager, that's come to me, that's sat through one of these. I mean, is it Dwayne? Is he still here?
Dwayne Emerson?
No, there's a guy from used to be in the military.
Oh,
Going,
yeah,
yeah, sorry, no, it's Dwayne, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, the fact you're even sat there, you know, you've spent 2 days out of your life to come and sit and come and learn about something that you're not actively involved with yet. You know, and that's for me personally, that means a huge amount. If you was to come to me and you'd done all your homework and you'd done as many certifications as you possibly could, absolutely, you know, it would put you in a bracket above everyone else. So, you know, it isn't. I keep wanting to go. It isn't a competition.
And all of these are purely voluntary. You know, you don't have to do them, right?
But you do have to do it. No, there's certain things. You know, EV1, absolutely, guys. You know, these things are dangerous.
Yeah.
Really are dangerous. And also, the other fact is, it's not just a danger element. It's what if we're working around one of these vehicles? You know, we've had cars apart where a module's gone down. You know, we've done everything by the book, but we've gone to turn and start it back up, and something's not communicating. The lift gate's not working, or something's gone wrong. Yeah, and we have to send the car off to go and get reprogrammed at a cost of, you know, hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and possibility of new module building. Now, with electric vehicles, you know, we're dealing with modules that are $6,000–7,000. You know, and there's so much more to these vehicles. Just a little story. My invigilator for the IMI in the UK, he had a BMW 330e. Very intelligent guy.
Did you say vigilator?
Invigilator.
What can you explain to the Americans what that is?
Thank you, man.
Sorry, it took a
Did we
second.
not give you that word?
No, never.
No, 1492. Columbus left that one.
1492. I believe we took that this country away from the English.
We're all friends now. Invigilator is an external quality assurance assessor. So that basically they come and make sure I'm doing my job properly, and make sure Vince is doing his job properly. Everything we do has to be assessed by the invigilator. So that's what he does. But he was driving home in his BMW 330e, so the hybrid model, and his engine management light came on. Check engine light. Should have been a check electric light. But he was driving along, and this light came on, and he stopped the car, and he had a look around it, and everything looked okay. So he cycled the ignition, and he drove off. Engine management, check engine light went off. He got home, and it came on again. So he phoned BMW Assist up, and he said, look, this is what I've got. They went through their protocol and said, you know, has it done this, has it done that, has it done that? He answered all the questions. And they said, right, we're advising you, we're booking you into your nearest BMW dealership, and we want you to drive the vehicle slowly to the dealership.
In limp mode, right?
Well, it wasn't in limp mode at that point. They just said to him, drive it slowly. So that's what he did. Now, we have this thing, you know, every call is recorded for training and training purposes in the UK, and thank God this call was. He then drove the vehicle to BMW the next morning, slowly, as per instruction, pulled onto the forecourt, and the check engine light actually went red. Now, I've never ever heard of a check engine light going red, and I've been in the industry for 25 years. And he booked it in, the technician came, put it on the ramp. He came back out half an hour later and said, the diagnostics equipment is saying that I need to replace your hybrid drivetrain. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah. He said, so I went into it and I thought, well, something must be wrong here. So he investigated, he took the under tray off underneath the engine, and the sponge that sits in the under tray was soaking wet. So it did what all technicians would do: touched it, licked it, smelt it, tasted it. That's antifreeze. You know, that's nasty. What happened? The stone had gone through the radiator that cools the hybrid system. They run two separate systems. BMW, in their infinite wisdom, hadn't put a low-level coolant sensor on the hybrid system. So it dumped all its antifreeze out. It had no way of cooling the hybrid system. And guess what? When they said drive it slowly to the BMW dealership, he was driving on full electric power. And it burnt out the batteries, the motor, and the associated wiring. £18,000. $22,000?
Yeah, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah. That's the prices we're dealing with now. And I'm pretty sure that everyone in this room doesn't want to spend $22,000 repairing someone's vehicle that something has gone wrong on, because you just didn't know. So that's why we were saying about getting educated. You know, making sure the service disconnect plugs that we remove to isolate the power of these vehicles, we remove them, we send them away, we put them in a box, and no one can put the plug back in. Well, that plug was covering the two pins that are now live. These pins are permanently live. They're going straight to the battery packs. This is DC voltage, upwards of 200 volts, and a lot of amps as well. When we're working around in the vehicle, we drop our tool, it hits one of those rods. How many of you have dropped the tool onto a positive pole of a battery and working underneath the hood? Yeah, it hurts, doesn't it? Yeah. You imagine dropping it under 200 volts. It's going to hurt a lot more. You know, a lot more. So, again, you know, it's these things, and this is where I felt that some of the online stuff fell down on. It didn't give us what we need to do to cover these terminals up. So we have an insulated matting that withstands 1,000 volts. Sorry, it's a category 0 matting, sort of that you put over a consumer board if you're working on it, so you can see through, see all the fuse breakers. But it just gives an alert to anyone walking up to their vehicle to say, if you move this, what's underneath is likely to give you some damage. Okay, so
None of us would take our PDR tool and stick it in this outlet right here. You know, that's only 110 AC, and we're dealing voltage, you know, DC voltage. A Tesla is 750.
That's AC for the Tesla.
Yeah. So that's 750 AC.
AC, yeah.
And then upwards, some of the cars like this, and out of the other day, they had burst up to 400 volts DC. And DC is, you're not getting off of it if you're touching it. You're stuck on it.
Does many of you know the difference between volts and amps?
You should.
Yeah. Class. Once I took the class in. Just give you an instance, you know, people say, you know, it's not volts that kill you, it's amps. Well, you've got to have both, really. But the Tesla Model S 100D in ludicrous mode, under acceleration, draws 1,500 amps into the powertrain. That's a lot of amps. Now, do you know how many amps it takes to kill us?
Less than one.
How?
Less than one.
Less than one. Yeah? Anyone agree with that? Yeah?
Half an amp.
That's half, right?
50 milliamps. Yeah, 50 milliamps
Half
is what it
half
takes us. Half an amp.
Yep.
It's nothing. So the fact of the matter is, we don't know. You know, every single one of us in this room is going to have a different resistance to electricity. You know, how many of you got heart problems? I've got one. Hopefully, I won't have a pacemaker fitted, and I can carry on doing what I'm doing. But again, I'm educated now, so I know that, you know, I don't want to get too up close and personal to these things if I have to have something done. Yeah.
So, I was having a discussion yesterday with John about, you know, the UK, you have to have certain certs in order to pick up tools to work on cars. The United States is not there yet, but we also spoke yesterday about the amount of techs we have now versus the 50% estimated increase in the next few years or 10 years, whatever. There's not an industry standard on training for North America, right? There's also do you think in the next few years is it gonna become a industry standard for people to have these certs and training and documentation?
So exactly. So what do? Let's push forward with it. Let's all talk and things like this, and we can take this information and we can move forward. I mean, what we just heard from Farzam earlier, incredible, absolutely incredible, and it gives me. I saw a few tie-ins there between the UK and the US with regards to Dacia, which is great. All now is starting to, people are starting to realise that we can't just go and operate these vehicles, take things to pieces, put them back together, and everything's going to be okay. We do need to have. So, unfortunately, is it going to take something drastic to happen? Yes, quite possibly. And that's the unfortunate fact of the matter.
And I talked to him about that, it's that since there is no industry standard on the training, some dude can teach somebody off the street who's doing a little work, in his shop, and, all of a sudden, it's only going to take one person to slide a rod into a Tesla and fry himself.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, then people are going to notice that it's going to be a big flip.
Yeah.
So like, when is it going to, when is it going to happen? It's gonna
And
happen.
most of us PDR technicians, we're all lone wolves. It might have already happened, we don't know. It could have already happened to a technician or, even a mechanic and stuff like that. There's been 2 documented cases with electric vehicles plugged in, and they used a pressure washer, and they died. So there's 2. We were talking about this yesterday with another company. It's kind of the Darwin Award type of scenario.
Natural selection.
Natural selection. But, it happens.
The horrible thing is, though, if I said to you, go and wash your car, you go and wash your car. If I said go and pressure wash your TV, you'd think I'm mad. But the problem is unfortunately, I'm going to be shot down on a blaze of thunder here, but a lot of the people that are doing the detailing, the washing of vehicles, maybe aren't quite as educated, maybe don't even speak the language, maybe they've never seen an electric vehicle. So they get told to go and wash a car, they go and wash a car. They don't know whether it's plugged in, they don't know what that thing is going into the back of it. So again, education. If you saw someone pushing an electric vehicle within a body shop, what would you do?
Run.
Would you tell them to go and stop?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because that motor is also a generator. So every time that vehicle is being pushed, guess what? It's generating 3-phase electric power. Where's that going? If the battery's being disconnected, it's being isolated, it can't go. DC voltage can be stored, AC voltage can't. So AC voltage is going to build and build and build and build, and then pop. Something's going to go wrong, or you're going to get some kind of an arc blast, and someone's going to get hurt. So it's up to us. Having a vehicle, we all work in body shops, and you see someone pushing an electric vehicle into a booth to be painted, and then they put it on a bake cycle for an hour at 80 degrees. Sorry.
800? 900?
I'm talking Fahrenheit. Killed a paint pretty quick.
How hot do you bake a car at?
180, yeah.
180.
Well, I believe 160 is the safe limit for a lithium-ion battery. Now, obviously, manufacturers are going to change, and they're going to give you different specifications for their batteries. But I think it's like 140 or 160 degrees Fahrenheit at 40 minutes maximum. So if someone's baking something at 180 degrees for an hour, there's a problem in that booth. We need to, so again, we need to, it's up to us, not just to, Google and see that, actually make it known. Try and educate these people. Pass on the knowledge that you've already known.
Well, we only have a few more minutes left. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Yeah.
You had talked about kind of consolidating information, like links to websites. Where is that consolidated?
So,
Is there a place where there is PDR-specific information consolidated, where you can access links to?
not specifically, no. We were just saying that the information is out there. Yes, you're going to have to do a bit. The OEM one stop we spoke about yesterday, you've got to kind of use your common sense to a degree. They're not going to have statements in there that say, for argument's sake, power down a vehicle. If you search for power down a vehicle on a Ford Fusion, you're not going to find it. If if you put in and search removal of a high voltage battery, well, guess what? You're going to have to power down the vehicle in order to remove that battery safely. So you've got to kind of think a little bit outside the box. Use your common sense, and think about if I wanted to know how to remove a door trim, I'm going to search how to remove door glass, because in order to get the glass out, guess what? I've got to take the trim off. So it is out there, but we do have to sort of.
Were you referring to PDR only, or?
Well, yeah, kind of PDR specific.
Yeah,
I know there's sites for body shop, general
Sure.
automotive information, but more
Yeah,
PDR specific.
There are technicians out there that have built businesses out of trading advanced skills, and that are there's some of them are paid. I don't want to senselessly plug any, but they're out there.
Right.
Most people know about them. That have been on Facebook. There's tons of Facebook groups that show a lot about tools. I'll plug my own PDR Tool Time. We show tools and techniques. We have a podcast and we talk about that on a weekly basis. We don't get paid to do any of that. We've been doing, we're what, John, episode 160?
Yeah.
And I think for the last two and a half years, we only missed 1 week. So every week, I race home from work at 4 o'clock to do a podcast. So, and that's because I love this industry, and it's my way of giving back, and maybe that's my legacy.
How we doing? We done?
10 seconds.
10 seconds. Vince's going to do a little dance now.
Yeah. Mic drop.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for